Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe family of companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We are beginning to see the impact of increased immigration enforcement here in San Diego. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Businesses and nonprofits are reporting a drop in customers and fearful communities. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has the story.
Protesters gathered at an intersection in Escondido Wednesday afternoon, waving flags and signs protesting immigration crackdowns.
Marcos, I do not wish to speak with you.
Recent images and videos of immigration agents knocking on doors and detaining people have instilled fear in many immigrant communities, and local businesses are feeling the impact. This person didn't want to be identified out of fear. She is one of the many vendors at a marketplace in Escondido.
Typically, our stall makes between $1,000 to $2,000 for the 3 days that we're there. Lately, we've been selling 200, 300 a day. It's been very, very slow, and nobody's selling. On Friday, I think we had one of our neighbors, the neighboring stall, told us that he only sold like $10.
She said community attendance was down out of fear of immigration raids. As a result, local vendors are losing the source of income they rely on.
A lot of people don't want to spend any savings they have, any extra money they have. They want to try to save as much as possible.
The fear is also affecting nonprofits who help those in need. Since the pandemic, the nonprofit Lived Experiences distributes food to people in Oceanside from the back of a truck, no questions asked. But this week, they switched to mobile deliveries to help families that are in need of food but are scared of being targeted.
So we post up at certain places, and we're scared that these places are known. So if we show up there, all these 20, 30, 40, 50 people show up there, ICE shows up, it's no good. So it's not good, it's not good for them.
Eduardo Ortega and his brother run the nonprofit.
Brother had this idea of, let's just do what we're doing. Let's go to the warehouse, let's grab all the food and take it back home and package it up and call everybody, text everybody. Or we put a number out there, hey, anybody that needs food, diapers, send us a message. We'll get a care package going on and we'll deliver them to your safe location.
They are unsure of how long this will last.
It's unsettling, it's unfortunate, and my people are some of the most hardworking, beautiful people in this world, and they don't deserve what's going on right now.
As federal operations continue, more protests are planned in Escondido and San Diego this weekend. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The U.S. military is showing us more of the work being done by Camp Pendleton Marines at the border. The latest video shows them reinforcing a section of the border wall near San Ysidro. Their work is described as supportive and logistical in nature and does not involve any arrests or other law enforcement actions. The city of El Cajon will not seek guidance from the state on how to help the Trump administration with immigration enforcement. El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells, who also serves on the council, pushed for the agenda item. It generated a huge community response last night, with dozens of people giving public comment for and against. The proposal was defeated in a 3-2 vote. The East County city is the latest in California to step into the debate over arrests and deportations and how much cooperation local governments will provide. The San Diego City Council voted to repeal a controversial footnote in city code. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says it's a victory that doesn't go far enough for neighbors in southeastern San Diego.
The 2019 footnote allowed much denser housing only in the Choyas Valley planning area, where neighborhoods were formerly redlined and remain majority Black and Latino and low income. City staff say the repeal will result in 465 fewer potential homes. Henry Foster III is the area's council member. He supports denser housing, but agreed with concerns about how quietly the footnote was passed.
The lack of transparency and engagement in policy making affecting neighborhoods, especially those historically discriminated against, like District 4, is unacceptable.
Neighbors discovered the footnote after investigating why large developments were coming to lots that didn't seem to be zoned for them. They want all projects relying on the footnote to be stopped. But city staff say state law requires existing projects to move forward, including one in Emerald Hills. Developers plan to build more than 120 homes on a lot that would only allow 70 anywhere else in the city. City staff expect the repeal to take effect in April. The footnote would apply to any project applications completed before then. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
And we'll hear more from Katie Hyson in this newscast. Coming up, she will tell us how the city is reconsidering its plan to build ADUs in local neighborhoods. And one proposal for Southeast San Diego mobilized neighbors. Hear why they say it goes too far for their community. Over the last decade, the City of San Diego's housing agency has relied on Section 8 vouchers tied to specific projects to deliver more housing for homeless residents. In our latest Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego reporter Lisa Halverstadt says that's changing.
The San Diego Housing Commission is the city's housing agency. It has long given dozens of Section 8 vouchers to developers each year for some projects. Developers use those vouchers to subsidize rents for the poorest San Diegans. These so-called project-based vouchers ensure developers can welcome people who can't pay much rent and still cover their own bills for the property. This approach has helped dramatically increase the city's stock of homeless housing over the last decade, especially in the last 5 years. Developers have counted on these vouchers being available, including the developers behind the planned sports arena redevelopment project known as Midway Rising. But the Housing Commission recently made a tough call. It decided it can't issue new project-based vouchers for the next several years. Here's Housing Commission CEO Lisa Jones explaining her agency's decision about the vouchers, sometimes called PBVs.
The need to stop awarding these new PBVs is unfortunate, but it is also unavoidable. It is a step we need to take as we continue to assist thousands of families with low income who currently rely on our existing housing vouchers.
Jones says the cost to serve families who already get rental assistance has been rising, and the money the housing agency is getting to support them isn't.
If we want to know what our rental market is doing, our housing subsidy can tell us. Unfortunately, federal funding is not keeping up with this growth in expenditures at the same rate.
The commission hasn't pulled from its Section 8 housing waiting list for families since August 2022, and now it is turning off a crucial engine backing projects for the lowest income San Diegans.
With so many families currently relying on us, we had no choice but to stop awarding new project-based housing vouchers at this time.
So what does this mean? San Diegans who already have Section 8 vouchers will keep getting rental assistance. But housing developers and advocates fear that the Housing Commission's decision to stop offering project-based vouchers will affect the production of housing for especially low-income San Diegans for years to come. The city will eventually see a slowdown in new low-income housing, especially for people now living on the street who need homes with supportive services. I'm Lisa Halverstadt for Voice of San Diego, and that's why it matters.
Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/Public Matters.
Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. As we head throughout the rest of the week, I am going to be tracking some heavy rain, even some snow chances in the higher elevations up north. But overall, for the rest of the week, it's going to be partly cloudy. We will see winds starting to pick up here as we head throughout your Thursday and Friday. And then after that, I'm tracking some chilly starts, but a very mild weather pattern here as we head throughout the weekend. I'll detail that updated forecast coming up.
The San Diego Unified School District is outperforming many other large districts in nationwide test scores released today. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says the performance gap between economically disadvantaged students and their peers continues to grow.
Winnie Gonzalez is a fourth grade teacher at Horton Elementary School. About 40% of their students are homeless or in foster care.
Math is almost theatrical in here. You know, we will act out word problems. We will stand up, you know, we do little exercises, you know, we say equal to, you know, we'll do, you know, numerator, denominator, very action oriented to keep their attention because as, you know, I said, you know, they're very tired and, you know, sometimes you need to get them, you know, awake and alive and, you know, interested.
Fourth grade student Ariana Barcenas says it's her favorite class.
She's really supportive, and then she helps me understand it better, like in all the subjects. She really helps me like understand it and think it through.
National Assessment of Educational Progress data released today shows fourth grade math scores improving in the San Diego Unified School District. Those fourth graders were in kindergarten when the pandemic started. 4 out of 10 scored at or above the math test proficient level. That means they understand things like 24 being a multiple of 8. Students who were economically disadvantaged had lower scores than those who weren't. 3 in 10 economically disadvantaged students were proficient, compared to 7 in 10 students who were not economically disadvantaged. That gap has grown since the district first started participating in the test in 2003. Gonzalez says the pandemic had lasting effects on those students.
Even though, you know, they had instruction to be on their laptop a certain time and all of that, a lot of them had to be caregivers for their other family members. And so they, you know, they learned to not be as attentive.
Ricardo Olguin is one of Horton Elementary School's counselors. He says unstable living situations make it harder to focus on school.
So you can imagine coming to school and thinking about if I'm going to have a place to sleep at night, am I going to have warm food? Am I going to be able to do my homework?
Staff work together to identify students' needs both in and out of the classroom. They've recently surveyed students on things like their sense of belonging at school.
So once you start tackling those social-emotional concerns of the student, then the student will slowly feel that I'm capable, I can do this.
In a statement on the test results, Interim Superintendent Fabiola Bagula said in part, quote, "These results illustrate the hard work being put in by students each day and the support they're getting from our district and their families. I couldn't be prouder of progress we have made as a team, but there is more work to be done." Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. takes his turn in the hot seat, seeking confirmation to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The San Diego City Council voted last night to debate removing San Diego's bonus accessory dwelling unit program. It allows what some call backyard apartment buildings. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says that many of the largest projects are proposed in southeast San Diego, and neighbors are pushing back.
On Tarbox Street in Encanto sits a small home with a big backyard. A yellow sign hangs on the fence. Encanto says no. Rebecca Batista lives next door.
My husband had noticed that there was some movement happening on the property, so he decided to look for the permits, and he'll tell you himself that he nearly fell to the floor.
43 new homes are planned for a yard smaller than half a football field. That's more homes than the rest of the street combined. Lisa and Eric Becerra live next to Batista. They spread word to neighbors.
They're like, no, we're not zoned for that. And then I'll send them the plans, and they're like, are you kidding me? Oh my God.
They had no idea how this could happen without public notice, without a public hearing, without it adhering to a community plan.
That's by design. ADUs don't have to do any of that. It's part of what makes them cheaper and faster to build. California hopes to entice developers to build more housing. It allows 2 ADUs on each lot. Usually, they're what you might call granny flats. But San Diego took it further. In 2020, they said you can have 2 more, as long as one of them is priced affordably. And if your lot is within a walking mile of a major public transit stop, there's no limit, resulting in some proposed projects with more than 100 units on a single lot, what some call granny towers. Those are rare. In most parts of San Diego, the typical project is about 4 units. And in Encanto, it's about 10. Batista.
We started peeling the onion to realize that it wasn't just this lot next to ours, but upwards of like 10 to 12 properties that we know about that are using the same bonus ADU loophole.
The Encanto area makes sense for developers. Larger lot sizes for less money than other neighborhoods. It used to be redlined. Today, neighbors are mostly Black and Latino and low income. Batista isn't opposed to more housing. Say, 6 more homes on this lot. But 43 more has her worried. Under state law, ADU developers don't have to provide parking. On Tarbuck Street, it's hard to imagine where more cars would go. The road isn't maintained by the city. It's riddled with potholes. There are no sidewalks or storm drains, only 2 streetlights. Overgrown trees and parked cars jet into the road. Eric Becerra.
How are they trying to pass this type of building structure when they can't even help us with what we need?
An early academic assessment of the program cautioned San Diego about the pattern of larger ADU projects proposed in the Encanto area. Quote, the city may not want to see such a high concentration of units in areas that have historically absorbed more than their fair share of housing development. Co-author Jake Wegman.
That sometimes results in a feeling among people living in those areas of, hey, we're getting all the development, and then meanwhile people in La Jolla or more affluent areas haven't had to have the same kind of development that we have.
California ADU developers don't have to pay impact fees or conduct environmental reviews. And Encanto is disproportionately affected by environmental burdens and health risks. It's also at a high risk for fires. Unlike apartments, ADUs don't have to have sprinklers. More concrete instead of grassy lots also means more water runoff. The neighborhood flooded last January. Wegman called the infrastructure problem a chicken and egg dynamic.
Sometimes people will say, well, we shouldn't build any more housing in this area because the infrastructure can't handle it, right? And then on the other hand, sometimes you hear, well, why would we add infrastructure to this neighborhood? Because there aren't enough people there to justify it.
Neighbor Lisa Becerra asks,
So what are these people supposed to do until it catches up?
About 50 neighbors have begun to organize. They created a petition this month that has over 500 signatures. They said they would consider legal action. Rebecca Batista.
This has turned us into activists, and it's been really beautiful bringing our community together for something that we all believe in. We know how special Encanto is.
I set out with her family toward the closest major public transit stop. It's supposed to be a mile away at most, but Google Maps says it's a little more. With no sidewalk, we're forced to walk in the road. The wheels of their double stroller and her daughter's scooter bump hard over potholes. We pass a smaller bus stop with no shade. An elderly neighbor's chair sits on the grassy incline, empty. Batista tells me she just sold her property to a developer. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
And that story and all of our feature reporting is available on the KPBS YouTube page. You can subscribe and get notified when new stories are posted. It's also where we live stream KPBS Evening Edition weeknights at 5.
As we head into tonight, I will be tracking some low clouds, especially near the coast, with overnight lows a mix of 40s and 50s. Here across the south, you can see temperatures ranging 40s, 50s here with partly cloudy skies, some 30s across the higher elevations in the mountains, down to 43 tonight for Oceanside and Camp Pendleton. Here in San Diego, downtown, 50 degrees. Future track radar is showing that we will see some heavy snowfall continuing there across the Rockies, with cloud coverage working its way across the coast here for your early Thursday morning. But as we head throughout the day, cloudy skies will persist, but it looks like it'll stay dry before rain starts to move in here across central and northern parts of California. But that's going to be about it for the rainfall chances here as we head throughout your Thursday. On Friday, we're going to see a lot of rainfall there across Northern California, especially some snowfall across the higher elevations. Now, some of this rainfall may try its best to work farther to the south, but it's not going to make it here as we head throughout your Thursday. Dry weather continues here with that snowfall there off to the east. We'll see some moderate conditions here for your Thursday afternoon, we'll see highs a mix of upper 50s, low 60s, even some upper 60s there in the desert areas. And then as we head into Friday, dry weather continues here across the Four Corners, tracking that heavy rainfall and snow there across the north. For your coast-to-coast forecast here, for your 5-day outlook, I'll be tracking lots of sunshine here for the next couple of days. Afternoon highs will be in the low 60s here as we head into the weekend, but starting on Sunday, temperatures are really going to ramp up into the mid to upper 60s. We'll even see some 70s in the forecast. Overnight lows will be a little chilly tonight along the coast with lows in the 30s, but then after that we'll see 40s and then upper 40s as we head into next week. Inland forecast, we'll see 60s before the 70s move in for the weekend. Overnight lows in the 30s before we get back into the 40s heading into early next week. And across the mountains, we'll see some moderate conditions before temperatures really start to ramp up here heading throughout the weekend. And then in the desert, we'll actually be in the 80s starting back on Monday with highs making it back or lows making it back into the 50s on Sunday.
At least 5 fires have forced evacuations and displaced families across San Diego County in the last week alone. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says that for people with Alzheimer's or other forms of cognitive decline, the chaos of an emergency can be especially overwhelming.
When flames broke out in La Jolla last week, Brooke Martindale knew she had to act fast. She runs a home health care company and immediately started calling her caregivers.
When the alarms go off on our phones, when the notifications come out, we all panic. And we want to make sure that we have that plan and that strategy in place, especially for people with a cognitive impairment or mobile difficulty, because they're not going to move as quickly. They're going to get anxious.
Experts say for caregivers of people with cognitive impairment, having a plan before disaster strikes is crucial. That includes knowing evacuation routes, keeping legal documents handy, and having recent photos in case a loved one gets lost.
One of the hardest things for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia is changes in their routine. And I can't think of something that's more of a change to routine than being evacuated out of your home in a rush.
Kaiser psychiatrist Sarah Simmons says an emergency can worsen dementia symptoms. Signs to watch out for include changes in sleep, increased pacing, or wandering.
They might be eating less or drinking less. They might be more irritable with the people that help them. They might be suspicious of new people, and they might have behaviors such as picking at their skin or picking at the clothes.
Being in an unfamiliar environment can also cause confusion.
So you put them in a place like a shelter where there's chaos, there's noise, there's lights, there's a different kind of rhythm to the day. It can really throw a person with dementia off and create that agitation or that anxiety or that feeling of overwhelm.
Simmons says a calm approach and simple communication can help.
So, for example, things like, "You are safe. I am staying with you. We will be together."
Experts recommend preparing a go bag with medications, medical and legal documents, and familiar items to help ease the transition in case of an evacuation. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Today marks the start of Lunar New Year and the Year of the Snake. It's a time of celebration for many Asian cultures, each with their own unique traditions. KPBS arts and culture reporter Beth Accomando speaks with San Diego legendary Lion Dance Association about the art and the significance of lion dances.
Growing up with a Chinese grandfather meant that my family got to celebrate Lunar New Year. My grandfather would tell us about being a boy in China and celebrating for 15 days with food, family, and of course, firecrackers. The ones he loved as a child were string firecrackers, made up of hundreds of little firecrackers braided together by their fuses. And when you lit one end of the braid, hundreds of these would explode one after the other. The firecrackers are supposed to ward off bad spirits and bad luck. But for a line dancer, the smoke and noise can be a challenge.
That's why we tell our performers to wear masks and wear earplugs as well.
Peter Kem is team leader and coordinator with San Diego Legendary Line Dance Association.
Purpose behind line dance is to ward off evil spirits and bad luck and bring in the good luck and prosperity to any individual or group. When people see the line dance, it's not just a dance, it's basically a Chinese martial arts form.
Line dances are a popular tradition in Asia during Lunar New Year. Line dancing dates back thousands of years to the Tang Dynasty, and a legend about the emperor having a dream in which an animal he deemed to be a lion saved his life.
During that time, people didn't know what a line was, so they basically just went off on what the emperor saw in his dream.
That's why the costume for the lion dance is so stylized and spectacular. It's often bold red or bright gold with large eyes, fluffy rounded ears, a big mouth, and a flowing body. It's amazing to see a pair of dancers breathe life into what's essentially a large puppet.
And there's two positions. There's the head and tail. As a head player, your job is to portray the lion's expression, which can be anything from happy, anger, sadness, etc. As a tail, your job is to follow the head player's footwork, because whatever footwork the head does, the tail does with it, and being able to be synchronized in music. If you're doing stunts, the other jobs as a tail is be able to lift your partner up.
The result is a fluid, graceful, and energetic performance in which a lion might jump on tables, rise up on its hind legs, or prance around a crowd, all to very distinctive and vibrant music created by a trio of instruments.
The drums, which is the heartbeat of the performance, the cymbals, and the gong.
The head of the lion can be extremely expressive as the dancer operates strings and levers to wiggle the ears, blink the eyes, and open and close the mouth.
You have to give the lion life. It's all storytelling. It has to be something that's captivating for the audience to understand.
The lion's head is made of bamboo, paper mache, and fabric, and can cost $1,000. It can also be a challenge to work in.
When you're inside the costume, you have very limited vision. If you're a head, you mainly look through the mouth. Our goal is to preserve and promote the Chinese culture and art of line dancing.
Lunar New Year is the perfect time to share and celebrate that culture and heritage. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
That's a great story, and you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.